Welcome to my world. Let's talk music. This one came from me listening to a podcast, Rory and Mal, and they mentioned something in regards to albums and singles and how the lack thereof importance to make an album in this new era. After listening to that portion, I actually reached out to my counterpart B and I asked her, what do you think about artists making an album versus them making singles? And she shared her thoughts in regards to like, hey man, you already know how I move. If it's something that's put on my heart, and especially when God put it on my heart, I ain't wasting no time. I'm putting it out there and I'm getting it to the people. Worst case scenario, you can do all these singles and then once you get the amount that you want, you can put them on one album and re-release them as an album. And after hearing her say that, I was like, that's definitely a different perspective. So I wouldn't say that I'm conflicted per se. Honestly, I don't think it really matters, especially in this day and age. And the reason why I say that is because the way consumers consume music is so crazy and sporadic now. It's equivalent to what's happening on the streaming services of like the Hulus, the Netflix, and things of that nature, right? You know how your favorite show come out, first season, second season, and so forth. And you binge watch 10 fucking episodes back to back to back to back, right? And now it's like, man, I'm ready for the third season. Man, they left me with a cliffhanger, this, that, and the other. Now, mind you, they probably been working on that season for the whole year or maybe a year and a half plus, right? To get you 10 episodes. And you were able to binge watch it in 12 hours. And now it's like, when's the next one coming out? The consumer's mindset is so rapid paced to the point where it's like, you know, they on to something else and they forgot about that right now because they didn't rush through it. That's the same thing that's kind of happening in the music world in regards to albums and singles. And that's where the conflict lies in regards to how the artist is putting out music in a sense. And I shouldn't even say conflict, I should say the overall depiction of what could be considered a conflict, because, you know, you got artists like that, you know, drop every few years. And so when they drop, you listen to these albums and then you listen to them so quickly, and then there's so many other people that's coming out with albums and singles and stuff like that. Do you really give it the justice it deserves in regards to listening to it, going back to it, listening to it? Maybe, maybe not. I know I'm a artist as well as a consumer, so I do it too. I'm guilty of it, where I listen to a track or I listen to an album, I pull all the shit that I like off of it, create my own playlist with it, add it to the playlist that I already had, and then that's the last time I listen to the album all the way through. So while I do understand the creativity behind an album, I do look at it from the consumer standpoint, like where we consume stuff really fast in this new era of making music. And so I guess that's where I'm looking at, where it's like, okay, do you make an album or do you make singles? After hearing my Ace Boone Coon tell me, I told you how I move. Anytime I have an idea, I'm dropping it as soon as I can drop it. Here's to the world, what we waiting on. So I'm actually more on the side of getting shit out as soon as possible and not holding on to it, especially if you're an indie artist and you're not really one of these artists I just mentioned. And that's no slight to you. It's just more or less like, number one, nobody really knows you. You might have a community that knows you, but in terms of how them guys are known or them women are known, you're not there. So what are you actually holding on to content for, or musical gifts that you have that you're trying to get out there? What you holding on to them for? I get that you're trying to put together an album, and one of the things that I lean towards the album part for, because I'm an album guy myself. I love a concise album or song to song where it's telling a story from track 1 all the way to track 10 or however many tracks you put on there. So I understand the creativity that goes behind putting a full body of work together. It tells a complete story. So you might be looking at it from one side where it's like, well damn, like if I just release this by itself, it's just by itself and it may not hit the way it's supposed to. Yeah, it will. because it's coming from you. At least that's my sentiment. If something is put on me to write down, record, and it's done, what am I waiting on? Number one. Number two, being an indie artist is not the easiest thing in the world, bro. Like, it's a lot of things that go into it. You're putting on all these different hats. You're the marketing person. Some of you guys are the mixing and mastering person. You're also the writer, you're the recorder. So you're basically putting on all these different hats. You get this one song done and it's like, all right, I got one down. I got 15 more to go, or I got 10 more to go, or however many that you're putting on this project. How long is that gonna take? And also, if you're not the mix and mastering guy, now it's like, how much is it gonna cost before you finish and have a full body work? By the time you finish putting all those projects out and you getting the quality that you want, hell, 6 months to a year passed by already. You could have released 1, 2, 3, 4 songs off that project. In a sense, I look at it like we already are fighting for momentum and presence in the music world, and for us to hold on to gems that we are creating, it can work against you, especially being an indie artist. I'm not referring to the ones that's getting the marketing backing from labels, or they got money already and it's like, man, I got bread to market this, I ain't tripping. I'm talking about the person that's out there making good music and may not have a budget to put $100,000 to their marketing. As you're producing the content, put it out, man. And when I look on some of the digital platforms, I see albums that are re-released or tracks from different albums, and they call it a whole different album name, whereas it may be like J.Lou classics. Now you done took songs from this album and that album and this album, and you made this collaboration of your best work, quote unquote, and you put it on this one album and you re-released it. So I feel like, well, what's the problem with releasing these as I do them? And if I want it to be a concise project where it's all together and it tells a story, re-release it as a full album, and that's fine. I think it's more than one way to do something, and I think this is an interesting way of doing it just because the era we're in. And I don't want to get this misconstrued where I'm telling you like you're doing this because, oh, you're gonna lose momentum in the consumer this and consumer that. I still stand by putting your product out when you're ready. Like, don't be on nobody else's time clock. But I also feel like you should put out what it is you created. If you don't have the budget right away to just be forking out all these tracks and getting it out in a timely manner, don't lose momentum or don't lose, the message that you want to put out just because the other 18 songs or however many songs that you're trying to put on this one project is not done. Release that stuff as you go, and then at some point, if you want to make an album from it, or that was the whole goal all along, then you re-release it and put it as an album. It does keep the momentum going. It keeps you relevant. You're releasing stuff all throughout the year. It just keeps you in the eyeball of the public ultimately. So it does nothing against you. I don't think it doesn't hurt you as an indie artist. I think it actually helps you because the visibility, and you're kind of playing in the game of staying relevant and what else you got, what else you got, what else you got, all the while still sticking to your original plan. Once you put it all together, then you can do maybe a rollout where it's like, I know you guys heard all these songs, but I put them all together because those songs told an entire story, and in order for you to get it, you gotta listen to it back to back to back. So here, I put out this album. This is actually my album. I just released it song by song. So you win it. You got the singles and you got the album, and you kept the attention of the people the whole time you was putting your music out. So after getting that fresh perspective from the missus, I actually agree with it. I do lean towards the side of creativity when you're putting a project together because it's telling a story, and that's what I am. I'm a storyteller. I like for things to be cohesive, but at the same time, it's like I also get that itch. I gotta put something new out. So it scratched both itches for me. It scratched the itch of me being relevant and putting something new out, and it also scratched the itch of creativity of telling a story in its totality. So if you're one of those people that's out there that's like, man, I just want to create albums, I'm not a singles person, you can still be an album person and release singles. Just release the things that's supposed to be on your album as a single, and it works works for you in a pretty cool way. All the things that they say you need to do in order for you to stay relevant in this new era of making music, it actually works in your favor. Like, you are staying relevant because you're releasing music throughout the year, and it's also not going against the creativity of the project being as a whole, because at some point you're going to release it as a whole project. You holding on to music is not going to do you any good. That's my takeaway from this. I'm not telling you that you have to change and roll over entirely, but it's nothing wrong with taking things from the new era and incorporating it to what you do on your foundation. It's nothing wrong with growing. Let me know what you guys think. I ain't got nothing else for you, and I ain't got no outro. So until the next time, I will holler at y'all.